attorney and I would be happy to help, and I know also Ms. Patterson as counsel will also be helpful as well. But if we say just following an order of the agenda, if we'd like to begin with a call to order for the first inaugural meeting of the Porterville Area Development Authority. And begin with call to order and roll call, please, Fernando.
City Member Monty Reyes.
Present.
City Member Milt Stowe.
Present.
City Member Baldo Rodriguez. City Ex Officio Member John Lawless.
Present.
Tribe Member Gary Santos. Here. Tribe Member Raylene Clower.
She's on mute.
Let the record reflect that Tribe Member Raylene Clower is present via Zoom. Tribe Ex Officio Member William Garfield.
And I believe he's
On his way.
en route here.
He's on his way, and then we'll just chime him in when he gets here.
All right.
All right. Next item in order would be to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, so join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will go ahead and lead us in that. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And next in order would be time set aside for oral communications, opportunity to address the Porterville Area Development Authority on any scheduled matter. Unless additional time is authorized, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual and no more than 15 minutes total. This time, anybody that wishes to provide oral communications? Is there, I'll ask Fernando, is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to provide comment?
She wants to make a comment here.
And just come forward and state your name for the record, please.
Priscilla Santos, Tule River Tribal Council member. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to take this moment to kind of recognize the opportunities that we have. We've all come together on a very prosperous opportunity for us all with the reservation and with the city of Porterville. Forming this JPA is going to bring us opportunities, opportunities as far as building energy resiliency and infrastructure projects that will benefit both of us within that area in which the casino relocation project is going on, excuse me, and the airport. I'm so sorry, I just rushed down here. And the airport. So the tribe for the last year and a half has been working on developing energy resiliency plan with our partners, Southern California Edison, and also the tribe. We have an energy feasibility study that we'll be finalizing within the next month and a half that includes the tribe as a whole. And now that we are moving down to the next to the airport, and now that we're moving down next to the airport, and the opportunities because of the airport provides a lot of fire suppression, or the main fire suppression for the Sierra Nevadas. With your runway extension could also develop an opportunity as far as building an energy resiliency project for the whole entire area, for the airport, for the casino, and also along with, as we go into building our hotel and providing that area, we can actually, I guess we'd be at the forefront of collaborating an opportunity to develop a microgrid for that area. The tertiary treatment plant is another outlined project within that area. The airport being fire suppression and what you guys have already going on with your fire suppression with Cal Fire and US Forest Service. Adding on to that, I would just like to let you guys know where the tribe is at on building energy resiliency, which includes that portion of the tribe, which also includes you guys. So I hope that we have an opportunity. We have done a lot of work over the last year and a half in developing the whole resiliency plan for the tribe that maybe we can share and partner on some projects. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else on Zoom?
Board members, there's also no one on Zoom who wishes to speak.
Go ahead and proceed with the agenda. Okay, very good. Well, esteemed members of the board, we have 4 items that are before the board this afternoon in consideration. The first being to consider a resolution adopting procedures consistent with AB 361 and the Ralph M. Brown Act. This is a particular action that needs to be taken today due to the executive order that allowed meetings subject to the Brown Act to occur virtually, the authority of which expired yesterday. So the first item before you in allowing members of the board to participate virtually without meeting the Brown Act requirements of noticing at the locations that they're participating would be to the adopt. Okay, so I need to back up for a moment. This is the first meeting of PATA. There have been, by the state of California, by the city of Porterville, and by the Tule River Tribe, declarations of local emergencies by each of those parties. It would be the recommendation as part of this resolution that this board find that there is need of a local emergency, as both of our representing agencies have already identified, as well as the state of California. So the resolution that's been provided makes that finding for PATA specifically, and then secondly, allows under the authorities provided by recently chaptered Assembly Bill 361, allows for a 30-day time period to be, for no more than a 30-day time period unless renewed, the ability to conduct virtual meetings subject to the Brown Act, of which today you have at least one member of your board that is participating that has not been noticed for the location, as would be required under the Brown Act. So the recommendation would be that that the board consider the resolution for adoption that would make a finding that there is indeed a local emergency and that the provisions of which by Assembly Bill have been met. If I can add that as well. So the resolution would be recorded by who is identified as the presiding officer, as well as then certified by the acting secretary. So as part of this action, I think it'd be helpful for the board, and as we become organized, identify who would serve as the presiding officer and would sign the resolution, and then who would be the acting secretary that would then attest to the signature. And I'm going to defer then to the city attorney if there's any other parliamentary elements that you'd like to have included.
I think you covered it really well. Yeah, I think if you want to, as a practical matter, you can go ahead and determine who, for this purposes of this meeting, you'd like your presiding officer and acting secretary to be, and then you can, and then that will be who signs off on the resolution ultimately.
And again, this resolution would just be in effect until October 31st because it's only valid for 30 days.
Right.
Which would cover any meetings that happen between now and then. If the next meeting of this body doesn't meet sooner than that, then a similar resolution, resolution is always going to have to be adopted beyond 30 days, but
Right.
this process would have to be followed again.
That's correct.
So the recommendation would be the voting members of the board to consider adoption of the resolution identifying presiding officer and acting secretary.
We adopt the resolution first, or we go for the officers first and then adopt that resolution?
I think you're going to adopt the resolution and determine your presiding officer.
Right. Either one works. There's no, you don't have to do it in a specific order.
Okay, in that case, I make a motion that we adopt the procedure and content of the resolution of AP 361 and the Brown Act.
And I will second.
I don't know if there's any discussion or if you wish to call for the vote.
Any discussion, Gary?
Okay, we'll do roll call vote.
City Member Monterey,
Yes.
City Member Miltstow,
Yes.
City Member Baldo Rodriguez, Tribe Member Gary Santos, Tribe Member Raylene Clower,
Yes.
Thank you. So so adoption is passed, and so would be subject to the board in wishing to identify as presiding officer for today's meeting.
You have a secretary, so we can do it all at the same time, or? You have a preference of a secretary, Baldo, so we can do it at the same time? Can we do that?
Sure. You know, I'm having trouble hearing Baldo. Is there, maybe the
His
mic
mic's
can be
not
turned
on.
on?
Push that, there you go. He forgot how to work the
Yeah, thank
equipment
you.
already.
Hi, Julian.
Hi, how are you?
Real good, thank you.
Can we do one from each side?
I was gonna make that same suggestion.
We can have Monty, and then we'll nominate Raylene to be secretary.
Thanks, a very good idea.
Exactly, that's what, And we have Monty and to be the residing chairman, and Raylene the secretary.
That's what I would say.
Raylene, you had any objections to that?
I don't know.
Okay, then there's a motion, and I second.
City Member Monterey. Oh, I'm sorry. City Member Monterey,
Aye.
City Member Miltstow,
Yes.
City Member Baldo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Tribe Member Gary Santos,
Yes.
Tribe Member Raylene Clower,
Yes.
And city staff is happy to assist in any way possible in terms of collaborating with the secretary in preparation of minutes, agenda development, staff reports, any of those elements. City staff is happy to assist.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, then item 1 is complete, and we can move on to item 2.
Thank you, Your Honor. Second scheduled matter is to consider the bid results for the tertiary wastewater system facility, collection system, and recycled waste infrastructure project. I want to thank Mr. Mike Knight for producing a wonderful staff report. Would you like to provide it? Or do you want me to do it? All right. Well, I'll be happy to introduce the item. So, as part of this inaugural and novel meeting of this authority is its first very significant action, which is to consider the bid results for the tertiary wastewater system facility, which is an essential component of the casino development, as well as assisting the city in meeting its strategic objectives in terms of meeting a Sustainable Rainwater Management Act elements, as well as how to be more effective and efficient in our use of water within the community. As part of the scoping document for the casino project was from its impact on the local water system was a partnership between the city and the tribe in the development of a recycled water facility that would have capacities to treat approximately 300,000 gallons a day, and which would provide capacity then to irrigate the sports complex, removing that system from our domestic water supply system, and in turn, at a lesser percentage of use, provide that domestic water supply to the casino project. In addition to that, the project would also take recycled water for non-potable uses as part of the facility, as well as for their on-site irrigation. So the Tule River Tribe has been, as part of the casino project, developing as a product of their project, has been in the development of this facility, has done design, and went out to bid, to which there were 3 bids that were received, and the low bid that has been was at $12 million, slightly over $12 million. It's recommended also to have a contingency of 10% for things that may become apparent during the construction process. This construction of this has been one of the critical features of the development of the Joint Powers Authority. The financing mechanism of this is that the city will be financing this infrastructure, and then a proportional share identified as 1/3 by the Tule River Tribe as part of the casino project would be financed by the city under its financing terms that it's provided other projects and similar in terms of mitigating other impact fees and the like as part of its economic development incentive package. So the tribe's proportional share of final costs would be payable over 10 years at a 0% interest, with the city financing the complete project itself, again with the financial share paid over time. There are other projects as well, and then we'll get to that later in the agenda. But for this matter, would be a matter of the recommendation would be that the board consider the bids that were received. The Tule River Tribe did take an action to ratify the low bid. So before the board today is to make that, to affirm the award and to authorize the treasurer, who is also the city finance director, to initiate the invoice. Happy to answer any questions, and have lots of other very knowledgeable people on the project available as well. Both from.
I did want to add real quick that Carrie did provide to us the draft contract documents as well. I just forwarded them to, and I apologize, I forwarded them to the addresses I had in my mobile device, which included, it went, I know the tribe representatives may already have it, but I did send it to Raylene, and then I also sent it to Monty, Baldo, although Baldo, I may have sent it, I didn't check to see if it's your current address, and Milt and John, and then our staff members as well. So I did provide that to you. I'm not asking that the exact contract be approved, although what you could do is approve it, give the authority for, just to make sure that we have all the proper legal clauses in there that need to be in there. You can do a conditional approval if you're wanting to on the contract, in addition to the authorization over the bid today. Thanks.
And thank you for sending that out. So for the board, are there any questions for staff? Yes.
Yes, I do have a few questions. First of all, where is Clark Brothers headquartered at?
I know they've done some work in the area. I believe they've done some previous work for the tribe in the past, I believe.
I don't recall, but I know they're doing some work in Hanford, California right now.
But are they in Southern California, Northern California, Central California? Anybody knows?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do we have an approximate start date? Have we gotten that? Anything like that?
The start date is actually pending approval, so they're ready to proceed.
Okay.
As soon as approval is given, they're actually requesting, the time that this is going to be approved so they can get started. Really concerned about the completion date. The target completion date is estimated in October, the end of October of 2022. There's several criteria that's involved with the implementation of the plant and getting it operational.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the opening day activities, it will require some permitting through the state and the regional water board. So time is of the essence.
Okay.
I can answer the location question. Clark, it appears that Clark Brothers is based out of Fresno, according to the contract.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
And from the tribe side, as soon as we get this approved, our staff's ready to engage and start phone calls and get them down here and get them going tomorrow if we can, but, whatever schedules permit, so.
I think this was answered, but maybe not. I'd like to read it. It was very well written, and I appreciate that. It wasn't clear to me whether the retention basin, that's in it, whether it's a brand-new retention basin or whether it's going to be enlarged. Is that part of this contract, the retention basin?
So the retention basin is part of the master plan build-out.
Okay.
For that area, and it's a 200-acre-foot climbing basin that will be constructed in the city's reclamation area. And it's a master plan payback.
Okay, and it's not part of this contract then? Very good.
It'll be bid separately.
Mhm.
Environmental is in the process of clearing, and then it will be bid separately.
Okay. And if I may, just one last question here. I've been involved in something similar to these in the past. It wasn't clear to me in the staff report whether the city will be performing, since they're going, ultimately there will be a city-owned facilities, will the city be providing inspection services?
Yeah, it's our intent, the lead will be, it is a tribe project, but we will be involved in a very similar way because ultimately the city will take it over. So we will be reviewing submittals alongside the consultant and then involved in frequent project meetings to stay up to date on the status of the project. And if there's any input or changes needed, we will provide that.
Okay.
Just to add to that, Mr. Rodriguez, I would like to introduce Sean Benedict. He's the actual owner's rep from Hill International for the tribe.
Okay.
We also have Zach Mead with us from W. O'Neill. That's actually the general contractor for the casino itself. And Sean's going to be our eyes and ears on the ground at the project, so we would gratefully like for him to work with Mr. Knight and your guys' staff and your city project managers for this project. I know there was some other, how should I say this, applications to oversee this project, but we figured, the tribe figured that, the city of we're partners with the city of Porterville, so, and you guys have city managers on, plus your staff sitting here with us. That's what we have also. So we would really like for them to work together and manage this thing for us. That way we don't have to go hire another outside entity. You know, we feel that we have enough staff to take care of this and manage this project in itself on staff already, so.
Okay.
And I think I could speak for city staff that as this is constructed on city property, that there certainly will be city inspection to ensure that it is, that its construction is to the city's expectations and standards.
Okay.
Just as we would in any other development project within the city that it's going to be responsible for.
I said there was that was my last question, but actually I have one more in the in the writing here. We talk about 800 feet. Is that a replacement? Is that a new pipe? And where would that be located, the 800 feet?
Recycled water pipe.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so it's new pipe that will be routed through the sports complex out to West Street and become a distribution main located on West Street and then adjacent to the casino construction.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the questions. Are there any other questions for staff? Or any other discussion for the item? I know in the packet there was a copy of the action taken by the tribal council recommending Clark Brothers. So hopefully everybody saw that. And as mentioned in the report, there is a threshold which includes a 10% contingency for that, as they are the low bid. So
Okay.
Chairman, just for the record, the tribe was directed that you guys are required to go with lowest bidder. And that's how Clark Brothers came to the table. And the tribe does feel that any three of these would do a great job. So if it's appropriate, I'll entertain a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the Clark Brothers contract.
I second that motion.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? And so seeing none, we will go ahead and call for the vote.
Before we do that,
Yes.
do we have to put in that motion for councilors to legalize the contract or
That
anything?
there was that recommendation for the contract to be looked over for all the technical specifications and to be presented correctly, but approved.
And that had to be approved by us, is that correct, Julia? Oh, you're on mute. Or Carrie, one of you guys can answer.
There we go. Sorry. I would recommend, so you can go ahead and take the action on the bid first and then give direction with regard to the contract. However, I don't know that the contract needs to come back for formal approval. What you could do is you could, if you're wanting to approve the contract, you can say it's subject to any issues, making sure that the clauses that need to be in there, subject to approval of both parties' legal counsel. And if for some reason we have an issue, then we could bring it back. If we can't agree amongst ourselves that it's sufficient, then we could bring it back. And that way it doesn't have to come back if we're able to work through those issues.
Okay, and so at this time, I'd ask that if you wanted to amend your motion to include the language stated, or if we
Approval
would-
of the contract contingent upon the mutual legal counsel approval.
That would be fine, but I know this is our first meeting, and hopefully we can have, in the next future meetings, we have all this stuff worked out, because I hate to have something approved by the board and then have to go back to attorneys for approval. It should be the other
I
way
agree.
around.
I don't normally like to recommend this either, but we just got the contract at like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to hold nothing up. I mean, we need Clark Brothers to get started ASAP, so, yes, I will amend my motion to add those.
Okay, so to amend the motion as stated by the city attorney, and I would like to ask if Mr. Baldo would like to amend his,
I would.
okay? So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
City Member Monty Reyes,
Yes.
City Member Miltzo,
Yes.
City Member Baldo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Tribe Member Gary Santos,
Yes.
Tribe Member Raylene Clower.
Yes.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we can move on to the next item.
Thank you, Auditor. The third item, and actually kind of speaks to a little bit of this, is discussion regarding the development of PATA bylaws, policies, and procedures. As a newly formed authority, really your formation documents are in the process of being finalized, I guess I would say, for signature. But with that comes what are your rules, policies, and procedures would be recommended, and I think the city attorney, the councils here can be helpful in this regard, and receiving some direction from the board in terms of what it would like its bylaws, what its meeting operations, frequencies of meetings, officers of the board, agenda, to the extent of how and what are included in agendas, what their notification times are, recognizing that there is Brown Act that would be part of this, and may be helpful to the board to receive future training in that regard and what is involved in the Brown Act, recognizing we're waiving certain parts of it to continue to meet under the emergency declaration. But really, this is an opportunity for the board to engage in a conversation of what it would like to see as part of its, or if it would like to see, established rules for its meetings and what those bylaws, policies, and procedures might include.
Thank you. And I agree that there should be some discussion with this, even with this, as you stated before, this new and novel meeting and JPA setup, and even trying to address the other members. I look to one side, I want to say council members or board members, but it's authority members, so there's things that we need to get used to as we move through this. But I think the discussion about bylaws and policies and procedures is an important one. So at this point in time, if anybody has any questions for staff or points of discussion in relation to those items.
You know, I think the standard for most meetings is the Roberts Rules, so, you know, you might want to use that policy and stick with it, since I think we're all familiar with it, you know, or as much as possible. There's a lot of technicalities in there that, at times, but I think that, I'm sure you guys abide by it, okay. And
Yeah, we're pretty familiar with that. Plus, the only other real concern is terms. You know, how long are the terms? You know, basic stuff like that. Everything else, Robert Rules of Order falls in place, I think would all be good. And then for more mine and Raylene consideration of the Brown Act, because we don't have to abide by that on the Indian reservation, but obviously we need to be aware of it, you know, so.
Okay. And
You guys might want to discuss your term, like, yeah, how long you want, if you want to establish a term for the directors, if you want to establish a regular meeting schedule, those are the kinds of things that we could put in the bylaws.
Which would be helpful from the Brown Act. And I know as a situation developed this week for today's meeting. So it didn't, because without a regular meeting schedule, wasn't able to schedule a special meeting, which with a regular meeting schedule, which requires 72 hours notification, you do have the ability with a regular schedule to have done special meetings scheduled, which require less. What is it, 24 hours, Julia?
Right, so if we establish regular meetings, then we can hold specials where we can only need to have 24 hours notice. So if we don't establish regular meetings, every notice notice period will need to be 72 hours. So I think it would be helpful if we can come up with a regular, you know, an intended regular meeting. Plus, I think it's just, that'll help too. If there's standing meetings, then it'll help with the organization and you know, help not hinder the project, right? Because that's everybody's goal, is to not have, you know, we don't want to create bureaucracy that actually creates delays, so.
I would like to see a monthly meeting.
I was gonna ask, is it?
Also, though, with the ability to meet when needed. Because we'll take the relocation project, for instance, and stuff that's gonna come with the tertiary plant, and, you know, there might be some problems and stuff where we're gonna need to meet in a hurry to get approved. So I think once a month and as needed, and then that way we have the 24-hour notice where we could, you know, we'll know we'll have to abide by.
I agree. And is once a month enough for, I'm sure it's,
I think once a month will cover it, broad cover, and then as needed during that month. I mean, we might end up meeting every week for a few months, you know.
okay.
And again, those meetings could be called with 24 hours, as long as you have a regular meeting schedule.
Sure. And then we can get that extra pay, sure.
Well, that could be part of your bylaws.
No.
City Member Rodriguez, do you have any input? I'm trying to get it right because
Yeah,
authority
I was
and
gonna
member.
say, I think everybody's, the 1 month or meeting monthly is a very good idea, and that's what I would recommend as well. In my reading of the documents here, I think one of the big responsibilities of this board is to be available to approve progress payments, which I believe they gotta be monthly from the contract as they come in. So I think setting it at 1 month is appropriate. But before we go one step further and say, and we will meet on every other Friday or whatever, and it doesn't coincide with when progress payments are submitted, we may be meeting on a Friday and that they submit on a progress payment on the Monday, so it didn't do us a whole lot of good. So I think it'd be a good idea if we can sort of zero that in, so that unless progress payments from the contract are changing, if they're set on a certain day, then we should be able to meet that day or immediately thereafter, and that'll be the days that we meet, so that we can fulfill our obligations so that doesn't hold anything up with regard to the progress payment approvals.
See, and that's gonna be a question on, how payment is to Clark Brothers for this.
Right.
Because the way the relocation works right now, the general contractor handles all of those along with our, owner's rep. They submit them to us, we approve them, and it gets paid out of one account, that we have set up. So is that the tertiary money gonna come to the tribe and then the tribe pay it, or is it gonna come here for approval to pay those monthly?
Yeah, well, as I read the documents, that's what this board, one of the principal responsibilities is to be the ones that approve these progress payments.
Okay? So,
That's my reading, so if somebody's read it different, I'm all ears.
yeah, well, and then that's where our staff is gonna be, need to be involved also.
Yeah, and I read the documents the same way, in which, in setting up meetings to be able to take action on time, as today, we needed to take timely action, and so there are points where we'll need to do that, but on the other side, it also means that the information coming in needs to be
Right.
formulated in a timely manner so that we can act upon it.
Right.
So if I can take a stab at this, this is why I need Maria here to make, so the funds are currently within the city's treasury, but by action of the board would, as the documents have been, the city would actually pay to Clark Brothers specifically on the behalf of PATA with action. So the city treasurer is, by its definition, the city finance director. So the action that you took previously authorized the treasurer to go ahead and make payment to Clark Brothers on behalf of PATA.
Okay.
Because this is a city financed project, this particular project.
Can you resend me those documents, so I make sure I got the right ones?
These right here, 37 pages worth.
Yeah, the 37-page one.
If I may just sort of summarize very quickly in my mind as to what I think the role here is with regard to approving the actual progress of the actual construction work and the line items and stuff like that. This is the tribe project, so that's where you guys would approve all that. But with respect to the actual payment and approving of the payment itself, and I don't think the board's in a position to question whether that's a good progress payment. That'll be handled by your staff and your agents and stuff, but when it gets here, then it's the board's, our duty is to say, okay, we're accepting the payment and we're giving authorization for that payment to be made. Am I correct?
Yeah, and it's just like ours, what our staff and your staff as collaboration would, say, hey, this is where we're at, yes, pay that, and then we would make the decision.
Okay.
So, from the recommendation from both of our staffs.
So that kind of brings us to the point where we originated with the meetings and generating the meeting time that would be most efficient in handling that. If there is a sweet spot in the calendar, or whether it's something that can be something that can be established by the other parties to coincide with our calendar. But I think at this point, the need for setting the meeting times that would be most conducive to those actions being able to take place in a timely fashion, as well as the terms were some of the concerns that I had heard for this portion. Yes.
Also, I have one more, and Raylene bring it up. Where are we gonna meet at? Is, do you guys want this to be the primary place, or you wanna do one here 1 month and one on the reservation 1 month? How do you guys wanna do that?
I think that would be fair, alternating.
I think alternating is fair as long as the access, there should, I think, case in point with this meeting being a public meeting and having Zoom, if there's similar functionality in locations, I don't know, well, and whatever the regulations may change for how that works, but I'd like to have your input, please.
Well, so that, by the virtue of the resolution was passed, you have to allow real-time electronic communication by the public. So they have to be able to access it. So the location part is waived, I guess is what I'm saying. So what's pertinent is because in this environment of the local emergency is that you have to allow real-time public participation in the meeting. So when we were doing oral communications as an example, there could be people, as we noticed this, that are on Zoom that we would allow to come in and provide real-time comment and be able to observe the meeting in real time.
And I have no objection to rotation. I just wanted to clarify that wherever we decide to meet, there has to be that level of access, and hopefully it's not variable based on, hopefully we can kind of decide on the standard that we would do it and then be able to keep that going wherever location is.
And we have that all available, and, I mean, it could be, maybe 4 here and 1 up there, you guys can come up and, so we can basically share responsibilities of the building or something, Just a suggestion.
Yeah, PATA has the ability to set its location wherever it would be. It's not grounded. It just needs to be consistent with the Brown Act, which right now is kind of operating by a different set of variables than it normally would. Yeah, we've, for today's meeting, has actually gone even a little bit beyond that. So you can consider whether or not you wish this to be part of your bylaws, but we're streaming the meeting on our YouTube channel as an example. So you could even be on YouTube, on the city's YouTube channel, not even necessarily on Zoom for today's meeting, but observing on YouTube. But that's not, again, that's going beyond yet again and the minimum requirements.
And so that we could agree casually agree on a rotation and determine when that rotation and where that rotation would take place, but the meeting date it has to be formalized.
Correct.
So, okay. So did we have any ideas on when the best date to have the monthly meeting would be, whether it be the best week or day of the week or beginning or end of the month?
Well, I guess to my point is,
Oh,
She's on mute.
Raylene has something,
Try-
her hands up.
tribal member,
Yeah, I was just gonna recommend, I was gonna recommend the second Friday of the month. That way it gives us time to review the pay apps, and get them processed and gone through the process, if that works for all of you.
I'm okay with that.
Any particular time, afternoon, this time is okay with everyone?
I think so.
3 o'clock?
If staff could just provide a quick comment. We were looking at the contract agreement, and as it referenced the payment dates, so it references the payment dates received should be no later than the 5th day of the month. And 5th day of the month, and the owner shall mark payment of the amount certified to the contractor no later than the 5th day of the following month. So just knowing that that's the way it falls for approval for progress payment.
So it's, in a sense, it's a moving target. It can be on Tuesday, that's the 5th day, it can be on Thursday, whatever. Okay.
One item to note is one particular thing that the city would be looking into is compliance with prevailing wage, so making sure certified payroll is reviewed, subcontractor forms are up to date, and subcontractor payments are being made in a timely manner, because those items, as required by the state, do hold up any subsequent payments.
And thank you for that. I think that's an important thing to note, is that there may be some lead time before we're able to take action where there's determinations made that would be brought to us to propose that. So does that change the suggested second week of the month as far as being a practical matter for that payment and the lead time to examine the documents and as you mentioned, the payroll?
I'm going to defer to
Yeah,
the
we
people
could,
in the business.
we could maybe get some feedback from a construction manager, but with the size of this project,
Please come forward.
it may involve more time than the usual.
One of the principal things in the kickoff meeting with Clark Brothers is upon your guys establishing a schedule, and I'm going to just say the middle of the month, that's when we're expecting to have a full payment package vetted and approved to present to you guys. There's really no reason, most public works contracts, it can be done. The burden is on the general contractor. He's got a due date. If he misses the window, he misses his money for an entire month. So he's incentivized to actually produce. That's the power that we have on the owner's side to enforce that, right? So the list of requirements is pretty well articulated, and we shouldn't have any problems. And I think I have to concur with Raylene's suggestion for the middle of the month, because we have a very similar requirement for the other contracts. So the only stipulation we've got is Davis-Bacon and other conditions which are consistent with the Public Works law, right? But considering the scale of the project, it shouldn't be that difficult. If we set the ground rules up at the very beginning, it's not like it's something new that the third month we're presenting. They know right from the get-go what we're looking for. So I'm pretty confident working with the city that we can make that happen.
Okay. So the second Friday at 3 o'clock is okay. All right, great.
Okay, so thank you for that discussion and input for the meeting time. It looks like we have, now we have to move on to the terms portion, I guess would be.
If I can, just for
unless-
clarification, as I was going to start, so the second Friday of the month would be next Friday, so,
And
and that may be fine.
Starting the following month.
Okay, well, I just,
in November.
under that meeting frequency, next Friday would also be a meeting, but do you want to begin that in November? Okay.
John, I was going to say, because we noticed this meeting so quickly, there, we may actually want to consider having a meeting in October, whether it's, whether we follow that schedule and try to have it next week or not, just to better clarify some of the policies for how this is going to work practically. Carrie and I know we both have questions to make sure everybody has an understanding of how the funding process works, what, how, where the funds are held, how that account is created, all those kinds of questions. The questions that Baldo actually raised earlier concerning what level of oversight and how that's all going to flow. So it might make sense to actually have a meeting sooner than later. I know everybody, I agree that we want to try to eventually want to get to the point where we don't have to have any more meetings than necessary on this, but it may be worth it to have at least initially some meetings to help set up the processes
Okay.
and get our bylaws approved. We will need to bring bylaws to the JPA for its approval.
And just a question to clarify that, do you recommend setting a date now, or does that qualify under our previous action as being able to call it within a certain period of time?
We'll need to still, because we won't have adopted a form. Well, you could adopt we don't have it. Let me see. Let me look at our agenda and see if it fits into what we have.
Adjournment. Okay.
Thursday, so it'd be the following day. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think under the development of paddle bylaws, policies and procedures, you could adopt for now a standalone meeting. You could set your regular meeting today, which would then give us the ability to meet, to also schedule special meetings if needed, if you want to do that today. Your other option is you can go ahead and decide to schedule, set a meeting for next week or sometime in October, whatever's convenient. Adopt the bylaws there, and then that takes care of it as well. But if you're wanting to have 24-hour notice, we would need it in place sooner than later on special meetings. We would need to go ahead and adopt as quickly as possible a regular meeting
Okay.
date and time.
So there it is. So we have the recommendation for the regular meeting, which we would have to adopt in order to call this, the meeting, the special meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Could I recommend, so to make they could make a motion on this, could they not, Julia?
Yes.
Okay, would be to make a motion on the regular meeting schedule of the second Friday of every month. There's a couple of things that are already coming up, like, so the one in November is the day after Veterans Day, just so everybody's, yeah, that's, so, but to still establish it as the second Friday of each, and then also to schedule, I would say while folks are here and might be able to comment to schedules, what that meeting would be in October so that we can begin working on materials for that.
Okay.
And also that would already be scheduled for when that special meeting would be.
So then why don't I make the suggestion that we go ahead and just kind of take a one by one and take action on the regular meeting, in which case we can take action on the special or
Special meeting.
standalone and then the terms following. So is there,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that second Friday of the month,
Do you have a time? We
3
need a
o'clock.
time as well.
3 o'clock. That's what everyone agreed upon at the same time.
Okay.
okay, so we have a motion for the second Friday of the month at 3 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. We'll go ahead, and is there any more discussion? No? Okay, go ahead and call for the vote.
City Member Monty Reyes,
Aye.
City Member Milt Stowe,
Aye.
City Member Baldo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Tribe Member Gary Santos,
Yes.
Tribe Member Raylene Clower.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
As long as it's time for me to get off the golf course, okay.
Yes, that should be plenty of
Yeah,
time.
That should be okay.
So, and now the recommendation was to look at a date for the standalone meeting, if we wanted to take a moment to do that.
In October?
Yes, it would be this month.
I will be in Chicago on the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and 16th, so.
And I am out 15th. I'm out of town. But if you guys have a quorum, there's no reason for me to be here. I guess if you want to.
Would Monday, the 18th work for everybody?
18th is good for me.
It would work for me.
I'm also open on the 18th.
Okay.
And then Member Clower?
We have our RFI meetings there, but that day at 3 o'clock, but that's okay. I don't have to attend those. I can definitely be available the 18th.
Okay.
So if Member Reyes, that's TCAG and probably TCRTA day,
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
that Monday.
Well, I should have checked my other phone's calendar here. I got both of them. So, gosh.
How about next Friday? Is that too soon? The second Friday?
The 11th?
That would be the 11th. No, is that right?
No, the 8th?
That'd be the 8th. Because today's the first Friday.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to push to the 22nd, I don't know, that, 3 weeks from now.
You know, that, just to make sure that there's
Enough time?
attention to detail on some of the contractual information and
Second.
being able to find it, and maybe pushing it to the 22nd might be a
Either way. Just-
good idea. Member Santos, does the 22nd of October work?
That works for me. We won't need any approvals before then, right? Yeah, that would work for me.
And Member Clower, does the 22nd work for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
And we'll keep it at 3 o'clock, correct?
at 3 p.m. Do we need to take an action to have that meeting?
No, it can just be noticed.
Okay.
We can schedule it, just, because you guys now have established your regular meetings, that would just could be a special meeting.
Where would you like to meet?
Here, is that okay? That would be preferable, or either way?
Yeah, here's good.
Okay,
Okay.
council chamber?
And we'll note that the meeting will occur here, there'll also be access through Zoom. And I also noticed that the chairman, tribal chairman, is on Zoom as well, so welcome. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge your presence. So now the discussion moves to the terms for this authority.
That can be
Authority
done
board.
as part of the bylaws discussion. You don't necessarily have to have that right now. And just to make it clear, in the bylaws, you can specify a term, or you can specify that it's just as appointed by the bodies. So there doesn't have to be a term or a specified amount of time that the members serve for.
Okay, and thank you for that clarification. And so, Member Santos, I know you had brought up the terms as a concern, so if you wanted to, have some time to mull over that and bring that to the next meeting for that discussion, that would be good.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Because I was going to recommend for my position 2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, and just to clarify, were there any other points procedurally that staff would recommend we either give guidance or take action on?
Well, really, just so you had an agenda that was prepared, staff reports that were prepared, but based upon city experience, is there anything I would say from a authority, this board's experience, would like to see as part of its preparation of materials, those sorts of things?
Potentially just some visuals, some maps of locations, and that way, maybe it's just me, but I'm visual, and so pointing to where progress is happening, it allows me to have a better idea in my mind.
If I may, is there a set time as to when these documents are handed over to us, so we have enough time to read?
That's a great point. So the Brown Act is just the agenda.
Right.
We exceeded the Brown Act requirements in providing additional information. So that's a great example of what is the expectations of the board. Providing a report isn't a requirement, but obviously, I guess I would say, from the city staffs who prepared the materials, that's a bit of our habit, so. Which typically is when the agenda's posted, we provide that information. But the board can establish its own timelines.
Is there a suggestion from the board on an appropriate time for the agenda to be, and information to be released to us prior to the meeting?
Well,
And the reason I bring that, the city exceeds the Brown Act. So we I don't know, how many hours?
I would like to see it, at least a couple of days.
So typically, the minimum would be 72 hours. We do 6.
Yeah,
we're
about a week out.
So we do Thursday before Tuesday.
No.
So we exceed this.
So the minimum is 72 hours?
Minimum is 72 hours.
I mean, that's,
I would like to stick with the minimum, especially on our project, because as you know, as you build something, a lot of things can change and, or get accomplished, and we need some more approvals or even action, so I would like to stay with the minimum requirement on that.
who's gonna provide that information? Was it gonna come from whoever
Great question,
generate from, or?
Milt. I was wondering if it was gonna come from me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Speaking from board member to board member, I think that's one that we'll have to work together on.
Together, yeah,
So,
definitely. Thank you.
Board member to secretary, we will assist in preparing minutes and collaborating in that regard.
And then we'll also use our owner's rep to help out with those too, because they're going to be following the project very closely.
Okay, so that's good, so that we have a standard for the submission of information.
Yeah, and so every effort will be made then 72 hours before the meeting to provide meeting detail. This does come up from time to time where as you said, the new information can be, which under the Brown Act, if there is new information that's introduced to the board, that it has to be made available to the public at that time as well. So as an example, the contract that was provided at 3 o'clock today, should that have been, if that had been provided to the board, we also have to make it available to the public at the same time. Right. So I guess all that just to say, as much due diligence could be made into the information made available 72 hours beforehand, it could be up to the time of the meeting made available to the public. And these are just to be consistent with Brown Act.
Okay. And again, we're just at direction for the bylaws to be presented. Okay. Are there any other items for discussion regarding procedures, policies, or bylaws that the board feels, or the authority board feels is important for discussion?
I have one more from our side. Agenda items. Who's going to determine what goes on the agenda and what doesn't?
Great question.
And I think that's, in some bylaws, there's a percentage of members that can submit to have an item discussed, or some have the ability for even one member to submit an item. So I think that's a fair discussion for the board.
And we can discuss that at the next meeting when they bring back the bylaws, because I don't think the bylaws are going to get approved in the next meeting anyhow. But it's just want to raise that question so we can keep it on the radar.
Okay.
I can start a template based on the discussion today and and then leave blanks where, and sort of topic areas in the bylaws for discussion to help with the discussion at the next meeting.
But it's a great point about talking about this body having a transportation component to it, which is how that, what are those types of items that and how is the agenda developed in support of that. I guess that's the, so a section of the agenda developed to public improvement projects associated with wastewater treatment, storm retention basins, transportation, or however that is segmented. I mean, that can also be one of the components as well. But also, how a member gets an item added, who, in the end, those rules I think would be helpful to.
Okay, and should we make it, well, so there'll be some of these things that people will think about over the course of time, and should we just keep notes for ourselves, or is there a method in which we could send individual questions to, and I guess the question would be to who, to be able to formulate these, because I could see that if it happens at the meeting, it could be a lengthy discussion. We could be in the same position each meeting as we bring up more discussion points. So is there a repository for the items as we come up with suggestions, or should we just bring them to the meetings?
Simon, Julia, if, to avoid a serial meeting, I'm an ex officio member, non-voting. Can those comments be forwarded to me and avoid a serial meeting?
Yeah, if they're just being provided to you, I think it's okay.
So as opposed to a voting, sending them to, for example, the chair, sending them to me as a non-voting member, then avoids serial, kind of a serial meeting where you're not engaging on what that will be
Right.
with the voting members.
Okay.
So if you
Right,
if you
and I
have
think
any,
I mean, you still need to observe the rules of not engaging with the majority, but then I think it's okay.
no, that's my, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to be, and I'm happy to work with the secretary as well in that regard.
And that's why I asked, because the formulation of the agenda will coincide a lot with some of these suggestions and being able to see how it actually works. So I thank you for answering.
Maybe both ex officios, we send them to both of you and Willie.
Yeah, that, great idea. Yeah, so both of us would have the same information. So if you'll send them to both,
And obviously, he's the chairman of the tribe, so he's well aware of, our Robert's Rules of Order and stuff, so we'll have some great suggestions.
I think that's fair. I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Okay, are there any other details? Well, probably too much, we're probably too much in the details now, but is there anything else that we want to discuss, or should we move on to? Okay. You're good? Okay, so seeing no more discussion, and no further action needs to be taken on this item, correct?
no, I think we got sufficient direction
Okay.
and you've taken the action of your scheduling of next meetings.
All right, so then we can move on to item 4.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next item was to allow for a discussion or project status update. It goes to Member Rodriguez's question earlier about the different components of this. A number of different public improvement projects that are involved in the project. You've taken a significant action on one of those projects. You spoke to the retention basin that is, plans have been prepared and are currently under review. Is that a?
Plans have been construction, completion, environmental process. Draft environmental about to be reviewed with staff currently, and as soon as that is approved, we'll have a 30-day process.
Sorry, but at that moment, there was an urgent matter that needed, Member Stowe needed to go with, so I beg mercy that I missed the last few sentences of the report.
Well,
Just acknowledging the plans are 100% completion for the planning basin, and we're in the process of receiving the draft environmental document, reviewed by staff before going to circulation. So estimated time for that to be completed sometime in November. After that, it will be circulated for bids.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff based on the report?
And I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time to ask this question, but the city engineer made comment about the prevailing wage, and that'll be reviewed, I guess, by the appropriate staff and stuff. Is there a DBE component to any of this, or there's no longer?
There wouldn't be on this project.
No, okay.
It's not federally funded with any of the DOTs.
Okay.
I'd like to note that Chairman Garfield has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you for the time. I just had a comment towards policy. I know that all of us get along together right now, and we're all, for the benefit of the project and making things better for the tribe and the city. But I know that the JPA will be going on for quite a while, and I know you guys are talking about terms and stuff like that. How do we, can we put something in the bylaws to avoid a situation when we are no longer here. You know, there's new team members on the board who maybe don't get along as well as we all do, to where it doesn't turn into an us versus them type of situation. You know, that's just for thought, but if there's some way to put something like that in the bylaws in case the situation comes up in the future, like I said, when we're no longer here, and you know, people may not have the same thoughts that we do.
And thank you for that comment. I appreciate that, and maintaining decorum is something that I think, as you stated, decorum is here now, and maintaining it is important for the ongoing, and we will be setting the example for the future, but being able to establish however we can in the documents standards for that behavior and decorum is also important. So thank you for the comment.
Thank you for the time.
Is there any other discussion on item 4?
Is there any other public improvement? I know that there's a question, I guess, and I think it's a good forum for conversation, is with road improvements in sequencing is what I would say. So there's nothing else, so I just want to, before we move into roads, is there anything else other than the tertiary the treatment facility or the retention basin you want to?
So as outlined in the staff report, they provide just the other components to the improvements would be the conveyance of lift station 12 and lift station 7. Those were 2 upgrades as part of the additional impacts of flow to the existing infrastructure for the wastewater treatment facility improvements. Other than that, everything else is encapsulated with the ponding basin and the construction of the tertiary plant.
Can you quickly tell us where lift station 7 and 12 is, for those of us that don't know?
So in reference to the project, lift station 7 and lift station 12 are both due east of the casino project, located in the vicinity of the, lift station 12 is in the vicinity of the OHV track. And then lift station 12 is located just to the north side of the ponding, the wastewater ponding basins there, just to the east of the solar panels.
Okay.
So lift station 7 is right there. And then lift station 12 is if you go up by the dirt road by the OHV, up a little bit to the left, right there, a little bit, is right in that area. There is lift station 12.
And the improvements include increasing the capacity?
Increasing capacity and upgrading the pumps, existing pump stations.
So that so we're good on all the water, wastewater stuff.
Yeah,
Don't want to move out of that. And just for reference, Mr. Rodriguez, so you're this is the area that is going to become the new retention basin, which is a lot of moving parts in this area because you have the Frank Kern coming in with a parallel canal as part of the fix. And then this is Teapot Dome's recharge basin has to be relocated in this area as well. And then there's a tailwater pond as part of our facility that's having to be relocated as well. So a lot of moving parts in this vicinity right here.
And the tailwater pond is an addendum to the basin. So because of the work all being done in the same place, the tailwater pond is being relocated as an addendum to the ponding basin project.
Then moving, I guess, onto the road construction deals with, and in fact, we were in a Zoom with Caltrans earlier today with all of the projects that they're working on in the State Route 190 and 65, the different projects they're working on. So They stated today, there's a roundabout that will be constructed at Westwood and 190. They are talking to 2023 now for their construction season, which I think is a year later than kind of what we were anticipating, but they're now talking about that still being in design and subject to beginning construction in 2023, which would be out here on 190 and Westwood. Then there are improvements coming up Westwood, and in the EIS, the environmental impact statement, talked about a signalization of this intersection and a signalization of this intersection. What's now risen and come on the city's planning horizon is the realignment of the runway, which right now ends right here. The runway would end right here in the middle of this field here, and there is plans being prepared as part of the environmental and design for this realignment of the runway that would take. So it would essentially wipe out that intersection, and there is a design that has a curvature that comes through city property right here. Actually, there's no acquisition that's needed because the city owns all of the property, which is a good thing, I guess, from the environmental perspective and acquisition perspective. So all within city property, out into the middle of these, 160 acres there. And then you would see a new road alignment this would actually be Worth, a new road alignment of Worth that would then meet up with West with, and then there is anticipated to be roundabouts constructed on city property in this vicinity and then in this vicinity. That keeps popping up there, but in this vicinity. So there isn't any acquisition that'd be needed, but it does speak to improvements that, I don't know, in upwards of $1 million, I would say, that have proportional shares both for the city, the county, and the tribe that may not be the best use of funds when probably 5 years from now or so, you'll see, and what is being planned for is that as part of the realignment project, that this road, portions of these roads would be funded. You would do the roads first before you would realign, you move the roads before you move the runway, obviously, and the gate and the fencing. So these roads would be constructed, partially funded by FAA grant as part of the project, and then also as part of potentially other funding sources, including Measure R regional funds that have been programmed from out of the State Route 65 widening that is not going to happen. I would say it's reasonable to say that this is within a 5-year timeframe that these roads would be constructed, and then the runway itself would be a part of a 2-season. The actual construction would be over 3 seasons. First the road and the fence, security fence, then the runway in 2 phases. So over a 3-year construction schedule. But again, the roads would happen first, and I think it's reasonable to think that would happen within a 5-year time frame for the roads. So that kind of then speaks to the question of which we all share proportional costs on, which is signalization and what are kind of interim improvements that could be done and money's better spent elsewhere instead of those improvements. Given there's other road improvements, the improvement of West, but there's also the improvement of Teapot Dome as the main connection point to the airport area from 65 being Teapot Dome. Scranton Avenue is under the highway agreement too close to 190 and therefore is subject to closure in the future. So Teapot Dome needing to be the identified connector. Actually, in our conversation with Caltrans, we talked about that from a funding perspective and how state funding may be involved in the improvement of Teapot Dome, which they reinforced when we talked about. So there's currently funding available. There's just no way we can get into what's called the Clean California Initiative. There's been $1 billion allocated for doing beautification efforts, as they referred to it. You've got to expend the funds. You have to have a project done by June of 2023, and I just don't see a way forward. And the maximum award is $5 million, which they, this would be a good project. I just don't. There's going to be a lot of property acquisition necessary. You're not going to get there. That being said, that funding isn't yet announced, is what it would. But Caltrans certainly highlighted that what's called complete streets, and you're going to hear this a lot. That as streets are improved, if they account for bike and pedestrian movements and other greenhouse gas reduction, you've heard us talk about moving from level of service analysis to vehicle miles traveled analysis. I mean, there's a lot of greenhouse gas emission types of things. So looking at how Teapot Dome is widened sufficiently that would also account for a bike access and pedestrian access on it, which would be, there's going to be funding available. You're just going to have to plan for it and account for it as part of your planning effort. Which also brings in both the city, the tribe, and the county having responsibilities for the improvement of Teapot Dome as well. So a little bit of this is still developing, but I think that gets to the broader strategy of, at least from a planning perspective, and how PATA would operate its development in this area, and its oversight and funds expended is what's the best way to collaborate in that regard.
There you go.
I know that was a lot and if I can take just a moment, when I talk about so there's other funding sources called the ATP, and that was brought up, and I need to say this, the tribe needs to ask TCAG in writing that the clock is ticking, and the next cycle of funding is going to come around, and if the plan's not done, the next cycle of funding is going to be, I don't know, it's typically, when they announce the applications. It's, May? I just know that it's going to be, I don't know, the state has not announced its, what's called its NOFA, Notice of the Funding Available, submit your applications. The reason I say this is that Caltrans is going to have a certain amount of money for the district. They're restructuring the way ATP has been done, which is usually the state's held all the money, and then it determines big projects, which we were successful as the city of Porterville receiving for the Butterfield Stage Corridor, about $20 million. They are now dedicating about, and the comment today was $25 million to just the District 6 area, which is really focused around Fresno. But there's an emphasis on getting it into disadvantaged communities, which this is an area that is identified as a disadvantaged community. So for those fundings, having that plan, which was evaluating improvements on the reservation as well as in the airport area, really is important, because there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be available. I'm going to tell you May, May of 2022, but that's why we really need the plan to be developed, and time's running short to get that done.
Together and we'll get that letter done.
Yeah, we really need to get a consultant
I know you
working
guys
on that.
been working on it. Can you and maybe the chairman can tell us when that's going to be completed? Because I think Mr. Lawless sent a letter to you that you could get to,
Yeah, we just gotta put it through the working meeting, and then it's gotta get approved through the duly called council meeting. And we should be good.
What do you have an anticipated timeline of?
there's a lot of money on the table there that you guys would lose out on if you didn't.
And it's future money. I think that
Yeah.
it may not look, it looks small because it's so far out, but once it gets here, it's big. And I think making sure that we can have you aligned with it would be good.
Yeah, and then there's again, a possibility of getting more, if we get,
I think our next council meeting will be on October 12th. I should be able to have that approved by then.
Do you, Mr. Lawless, is there a deadline, a hard deadline that you're aware of on the other end?
No, it's just, I called it lead time. How long is the consultant going to need to develop the plan that is done before the funding, before the applications become available? And that's where Mr. Sanchez is right. So even with a successful award, it's typically 2 to 3 years later, but the funding gets programmed. And what Caltrans was telling us today, as an example, there's just a lot of money that's been programmed into ATP as an example of complete streets, which was saying, position yourselves, this is what they said, position yourselves from a complete street standpoint, be active in the ATP program and I know that that's been the strategy that has been for that to, essentially, we did a plan by copying other plans, what the city did for Butterfield Stage Corridor. In fact, the state coming down to do a scouting report, you might recall. So the opportunity for success with a lot of money coming in this next ATP cycle, it sounds like, is having something prepared for that. And it's about the May timeframe. And the reason I bring that up is that there could be money for Teapot Dome in the ATP program, as well as any of those improvements that you may speak to on the reservation.
All right. Anything else from roads or other updates?
I know that that's been having attended a couple of the relocation committee meetings, that's been an item of, I don't know if you wanted to have any further discussion about, especially as it relates, that's kind of an overview of all the different road elements kind of in that area, but didn't know if you want to have any further conversation from a coordination or discussion standpoint.
And yeah, and I know that the roads have been a topic of concern just because of the uncertainty of the timeline. So is there any other discussion that you wanted to bring up, Member Santos?
I would like to keep roads on the agenda obviously for a while. Like Mr. Lawless was saying, the tribe really doesn't want to spend money where it's just going to be torn up in a year or two, for roads. If we can collaborate and then agree and spend that money elsewhere to where it benefits not only the project but also the city, we would like to discuss and agree on stuff like that. So as far as suggestion that was thrown out there, the fire station that was put into phase 2, but if we don't have to spend the money on roads at this time, maybe we could put that money towards the fire station and bring that to phase 1. Just stuff like that. Obviously, that's going to take a more longer discussion and an agreement with everybody. But items like that where we don't have to spend our money, where it's only going to last for a few years. I'm pretty sure you guys are all understand that point of view. So definitely, we would like the roads to be on the agenda for a while, so we can collaborate and come up with some better solutions.
Is there any other input or discussion for that? For Tribal Chairman Garfield, did you have any other input on that subject?
Yeah, just as we discussed before, just whatever this body can do to get some of them, the day one list ready, that'd probably be the best bet. to work together on what's gonna be day one, agreements.
Okay, thank you. And Member Clower, did you have any input on that subject?
No, I would have to agree with Willie too. Like, we need to make sure that we prioritize everything so that we are ready to open, mid-November 2022 with the roads, the wastewater treatment plant, the retention, basin, and all of that. So I appreciate you guys taking your time today to, start this.
Thank you.
If I may add, it's probably about 4 to 6 weeks now. I had a discussion with Will Washburn. He's with Peters Engineering, the design engineer, helping with some of the road improvements. Our starting point on this was going to be to have him look at the EIS, give a rough order of magnitude costs on what those improvements would be in the EIS, and then do a rough breakdown of costs of what this new road alignment would be. And that way we can gauge if it's, if we're right on, we're over, under, and then that'd be a nice starting discussion point to have, with numbers and such in our hands. On the design side, we both have seen that if the numbers are there, the best thing would be to have that road put in now to minimize disturbances, because the Caltrans project will be disturbing that area shortly after the casino opens. And so it'd be one less thing to worry about, besides being throwaway improvements, a traffic signal here or roundabout here, it's just going to further detour people away from that, the casino that would be open at that time. And I'm sure the objective is to get people to go, not drive them away. So that's the discussion we've had, and I'll follow up on our side to see if those numbers are close to being available.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And the balance of how those things happen and when they happen is going to be very important, especially initially with the project's completion.
Mr. Garfield has it.
Yes, Member Garfield.
Oh, I just wanted to in regards to the EAS, the analysis is already done and complete for that, so those numbers are available.
So we'll have the numbers probably brought to a future meeting, be able
I was going to say
to,
at your next meeting, I guess we could kind of agendize that, if you will, for conversation about
All right.
traffic improvements, transportation improvements.
great. And all these things, yeah, it's great to have all these things kind of run in parallel, even though there are some more timely aspects that we will be looking at, but keep tabs on the entire picture, I think, is crucial. And also the availability of future funds and that letter. So it would be probably beneficial to the project if that was, if the letter was able to be taken care of soon. And I appreciate your comment on possible timelines. Okay, great.
Okay, we can have that ready for you guys.
Okay. Anything else, Member Stowe, Member Rodriguez?
Yeah, I just very quickly, I appreciate the expanding on all the different projects and stuff, but what I gathered from what Mr. Wallace had made comment is that there's a number of improvements that are going to occur, come hell or high water, they're going to occur. But the tribe is pretty set on their timeline as to when they would like to get that casino. And the city engineers made comment as to a particular street that we should be taking care of. But in summary, it seems like it's inevitable that the casino, once it's open and it's in its infancy, it's going to be impacted and there's nothing you can do about it. Am I right? Am I correct here? Because the improvements that you're talking about are in fact going to do exactly what you just said, Javier. And it's going to make it very difficult for people to, unless they want to go through the trouble of going through all these construction sites or whatever. So isn't this inevitable?
The objective is that both the city and county projects will be completed before the casino opens or at the same time. So the city has a handful of projects that we have. City staff just recently overlaid Teapot Dome from 65 to just west of Newcomb city limits.
Mm-hmm.
The county, I think they've shifted their project from this fall to next spring, but they're going to be doing overlays / full depth reclamations along Teapot Dome, just west of West Street, and then westward from 190 to the Worth Avenue alignment. And I think they got some other little slivers of improvements here and there. But that work and the city work, it would all be completed, and the only delay and detour would be the Caltrans project.
Which could be significant.
It'll shut off the access from 190 to go south on Westwood, yes.
So that brings back Teapot Dome as being one of the major entryways into that. And you're right, you would appreciate this. People want you to fix the roads, and then when you fix the road, my God, why are you fixing the road?
We'll tear them up again.
Yeah. We just did this with Henderson Avenue. Oh my God, why are you guys tearing up the road? So yeah, it's going to be impactful. The hope would be is that you're not doing both of them at the same time. So having Teapot Dome, I would say providing it a 5-year life with overlays, you're going to have Westwood impacted because of Caltrans work in 2023. Hopefully that work would be able to be sequenced in some way. But Teapot Dome's reconstruction, I would say, that's what I'm speaking, there, you can see money beginning to line up to be able to reconstruct that in a variety of funding sources.
Right.
And done correctly, I would say, kind of alleviates some of that, some of that, and part of that goes as well to, priorities that have been, for example, the 65 widening, the state has said no to. It's not going to happen. It's not. In fact, they stated very clearly to us today, Caltrans said, we're not here to talk about widening today, so don't even bring it up. So let's talk about complete streets and other greenhouse gas emission types of things. So that gets to Teapot Dome, which you're not talking about widening it to 4 lanes or 190 or those sorts of elements. So it's a matter of looking at, there's $50 million of Measure R regional funds that was set aside for widening of 65 that's they're providing a regional benefit. So,
Okay.
these are all, uncertain times, I guess is what I would say, and having to be flexible and recognize how money is, the rules are changing for the money as the money goes up. So, and having to be flexible for it. And I guess that's a fundamental question. Do you even want to be? I mean, I guess you don't have to be. You can just say, well, it's going to be what it's going to be, and I guess that's an alternative as well.
I think it's important for us, just as a practical matter, to keep tabs on everything. I mean, even with the delay being pushed out to 2023, that's the costs that are going to be in 2023, the materials, the labor, all of those. It's going to be a puzzle. All of these pieces, even though we won't have control, it's good to keep tabs so that we can have the best options available.
I'm sure I was told, John, it's 1% every month. You guys told me that, right? 1% a month. So.
Okay, well, it's great. We'll have to have those continuing items on there and be able to put our minds to solving puzzles continually, I think. But I appreciate all the effort, and I think that underscores too any information that we have coming to the appropriate person to get the information to this board to be able to take action if required or make adjustments as required is even more crucial. So appreciate all the input on that. Do we have any more on that item number 4? No.
Me.
Okay.
Yes, Chairman.
Oh, okay, please go ahead.
I think, that's really good what you said there, because I think someone from this team should be reviewing the improvements that the county's doing. I think they're supposed to do it per the standards, and I think Teapot Dome was supposed to have a 20-year life on their improvements. And I don't know, if nobody's looking to see if they're making it to the standard, then I'm sure we're gonna have to come back in and redo or overlay again when something that we probably already paid for.
Right, and to answer that question, Chairman, the county's rehab vision is just that. They do overlays. They don't have that long-term effect of 20 years. The full depth of reclamation areas might last a little bit longer, but even that, we're looking 7, 8 years. And so in that 5-year horizon, we probably won't be able to use much of what was there unless we grind it up and reuse it as base, but it will be drastically affected along wherever the county and even our projects are going to take place. The only one we'd probably be able to control at this point is that the curve from west to Westwood around the runway shift project, that can be designed to city standards, and then we would expand on that within the 5-year timeline to add medians, add the other side of the roadway to make it a 4-lane roadway, and the 2 roundabouts.
Also, this is where our owner's rep will review all these documents and bring it to the tribe's attention. Because in the MOU, it does state that the county's part on the Teapot Dome is to last at least 20 years in our MOU with the county. So it's something that we do have something to fall back on. But we will review all the documents and hopefully with your staff also. So we'll be able to make sure everybody pays for their fair share of what we need accomplished.
Okay, all good points, thank you. And so, is there anything else on item 4? We're good on item 4?
I was gonna only offer up, if item 4 is gonna stay on the agenda, I mean, it's great to always have an update of the project, that W. O'Neill could will be able to provide a kind of the BIM model or something like that, come in and do an update to you guys or to the board so everybody can see the project as it's going. We could do a report for you, for the board for that.
I think that would be helpful, and even there may be some times where, it may not be required, or there may be some things that can be reported verbally, but especially anything that's impactful or can contribute, especially to the collaboration and getting all the information together for all these various topics that we want to be able to keep tabs on. I think that would be something good, so that would be appreciated. Okay, and with item 4 complete, that brings us to other matters. So I'll start with tribal chairman. Did you have any other matters?
Not at this time that I can think of, other than the suggestion earlier regarding the fire station.
Okay, thank you.
Just keep that on the radar, I guess.
Member Clower, did you have any other matters?
I don't. Thank you very much.
Okay. Member Rodriguez, did you have any?
Thank you.
Okay. Member Santos, did you have any other matters?
Not at this time.
Okay. Member Stowe?
I did. I do. Yesterday, I was able to go out and tour the facility, and I was impressed just with the beams. I can just envision how nice that's going to be, and it's going to be a nice addition to our community. It's going to be an impressive building.
Great. I can't wait to.
Just a little bit to add on that one. The tribe is having a topping off ceremony on October 28th, from 10 to 1. And we're gonna send out invitations. I know we talked about this before, but definitely, it's a public event. We're expecting about 300 people. So please attend without violating if it's okay for everybody to attend.
It should be okay.
Social exemption.
Yeah, we should be okay.
So we are having that one, and, make everybody aware of that, so please. There'll be t-shirts and food. And everybody gets to sign the last beam that goes up.
Very good. Thanks for mentioning that, and appreciate the invitation, and hopefully I'll get out there to see progress at some time soon. So I didn't have, well, what I wanted to say actually, and before I'll hand it off to Mr. Lawless at the end, just so that he can summarize in case there's anything we missed. But I did want to acknowledge, as was mentioned in oral communications, the significance of this inaugural meeting, and that this body can serve a very important role in this community and with this project, and as well as establishing a model of collaboration that has, to my knowledge, not been demonstrated anywhere else. So hopefully this will be the start of something wonderful, and I just appreciate everyone's time today and participating in this meeting. So, and Mr. Lawless, I didn't know if you had anything.
Couldn't top that and have nothing to add, so thank you.
Okay, so with that being the case, and we've determined that our next meeting is on the 22nd at 3 p.m. So we will meet then, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.